Hello. So today we're going to talk about while loops in Python, right? So I have just made a quick file on while loops here, as you can see. So, and in here, in this file, we'll be working on our while loops. So before starting on our while loops, let's first talk about uh, simple, if you just want to increase the value of a variable by one. How can we do that? Okay, because learning this is very important and it has a connection towards our while loop. So for example, if I just say I is equals to 0. Okay, now this question is particularly for beginners, right? So if I just say I is equals to 0 and then I ask you to increase the value of I by 1. Okay, now how can we do this? Okay, so now I don't just want to add 1 into I, right? I want to increase the value of I by 1, right? Which means that you can't just say I plus 1. Okay, so if we just say I plus 1, right, and then we can just be printing I again, and if I just run this program, let's see. So we have said I plus 1. Now this should have, the value of I should have gone to 1 right now, but it's still 0. Okay, so for this purpose, if you actually want to increase the value of I by 1, you need to update the value of I just like this. You can say I plus 1, and whatever the value of I plus 1 is, put that into I again, just like this. We're gonna say I equals to I plus 1. Okay, now this is the method of how do you increase the value of a variable by 1. Now you can change the increment to 1 to 3, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want, right? So there are all the methods available. Now this one is called as a simple method of increasing the value of I by 1. Now there's another one. This one can be, now we can add it into another way. We can just say I, and then we can say plus equals to 1. Now this method here is kind of very popular, and we usually use this method because it's kind of very efficient and fast. So you just need to say I plus equals to 1, and the value of I will be updated by adding 1 into I, right? Now you can just change the operands here. You can easily say I minus equals to 1. Now this I minus equals to 1 means that we are subtracting 1 from I and we are updating with it, right? So for example, if the value of I before this statement was 4, so after this statement it would be 3. Okay, now we can also say I multiply by, now I multiply equals to 1. Now this also means that we're just multiplying the value of I by any value. You can say like 1, 2, 3. How about you just say 2? Okay, so we are multiplying the value of I by 2, and then we are updating the value of I by that value. So for example, if before the statement the value of I was 2, okay, so after this statement the value of I will become 4, right? So this is how we can use different operands and we can achieve the increment statements in Python, right? Now let's quickly move on towards our while loops. Okay, let's comment this one out first and then let's move this one. Okay, now before talking about the while loops and before going towards some examples, let me first tell you what is the actual syntax of a while, right? Now you're gonna remember this thing as the structure, as the construction pillars of a while loop, right? So let's say syntax, right? So we're talking about syntax. Or you can also say we are talking about the construction of a while loop. Now, the first and the foremost thing in the while loop you may think would be a simple while, right? We always need a while to make a while loop. It's kind of very obvious, right? So we're gonna say a while, and then we need some condition, right? Now we need some condition that would be there, and it will help us to keep running the loop. Now the loop will keep on running until this condition is true, and as soon as this condition becomes false, we will just be getting out of the loop. Okay, so we need a while, and then we need a condition, and then just after that we need a colon. Okay, and after a colon, now of course, as soon as we give the while loop and we get inside the while loop, we need to give some conditions. We need to give some commands, the commands that we want to loop through, the commands that we want to run again and again and again, right? Because this is the actual purpose of a loop. You use a loop to help you to make some operations go automatic, right? So for example, if you have some repeating operations, if you want to do some multiplication or division or anything like that, and if you want to do it multiple times, you do it with the while loop, with a particular loop, right? So you can use a for loop or you can use a while loop. We will also discuss the difference between a for loop and a while loop just after this syntax. Okay, so as I told you before, the first thing is the while, then we need to give a condition, and after that we need to give some commands. Okay, now these are the commands that will run until a condition is true, until this condition, particularly this condition, is true. So these commands will be running. Now the last part, last but not the least. Now this last part is very important and people usually skip this one, okay? Especially the beginners, they usually forget about this, right? So never forget about this one. Now this one is called as the increment statement, right? The increment statement. You can also call it slash the terminating statement. The terminating statement. Okay, let me just respell this one. Statement. Just like that. Okay. So first of all, we need a condition, then we need a command, then we need increment and the terminating statement. Now these are the four very important things. We can also say three things. Okay. So the first thing is we need to give a condition. The second thing is the second construction part of a while loop is commands. We need some commands so that we just keep on running them again and again and again. And at the end, we need some increment statements, or we can also call them the terminating statements. Okay, now these words or these terms may be a bit confusing to you for once, but as soon as I give you an example, the whole thing will get clear. All right, now this is the basic structure of a while loop. Now in some cases, or should I say in the most of cases, we also need one more thing called as the initiation of loop variable, right? Now each and every variable or each and every loop needs to have a loop variable, right? And that loop variable just helps us to loop through the whole for or the whole structure of the loop, right? Now we can just call it the initialization statement. Okay, now as I told you before, these terms may be a bit difficult to you now, but as soon as I explain them, you will get a hold on them, right? Now for now, just bear with me. Now let's just quickly do an example so that all of these things can be a bit clear in your mind. Now let's just simply say, how about we just print the first five numbers, the first five natural numbers in mathematics, right? So simply we just want to print first five natural numbers, right? Now based on each and every question, each and every condition, each and every situation, you are going to create the condition in your mind, right? So I'm first going to give my initialization statement, because, and for that purpose I also need to give a variable that is going to help me to loop through my all the statements. So first of all, I'm going to say I, and then I'm going to say equals to, and then I'm going to say, let's say 0. Okay, now this is called as the initialization. I here is my loop variable. Okay, and as soon as I say I equals 0, this means that I'm initializing my I, and I'm giving a 0 here, right? Now I need to make a condition in my mind, right? Now I want my loop to run for 5 times, so I will just be saying while. Now you see I have I equals 0, so I can just say while I is less than 5, right? So what will happen here? What will essentially happen here? So the thing is, it will just, yeah, let's give the commands and let's give the increment statement as well, and then we're going to come back to the whole program. How does it looks like, right? So again, I'm going to tell you that we are making a program that will just print 5 natural numbers starting from 0. Okay, now if I just press enter here, I need to give a command that I want to run again and again, right? So I'm just going to say print, okay, and then in the brackets I'm going to say count is, right? Because we are just counting numbers starting from 0 to 5, and then we're just going to say I, right? Because I will have all these values. I will have 0 in the first iteration, and then 1, and then 2, and up to so on. And the third thing here, which is very important, which I would emphasize to all these beginners out there, don't forget this one. This one is called as the increment statement. Okay, let me first write it and then I explain you the purpose of this increment statement, right? So this one, as I just explained you right before starting the while loops, this one looks like this: I equals to I plus 1, right? Now let me just quickly explain to you what is happening in this program. So we just first said I equals 0. Now we have just initialized our loop variable, right? Usually in a while loop, you're going to initialize your loop variable. Next thing was we gave a condition. We said while I is less than 5. This is a condition. It says that keep on running the loop until the value of I is less than 5. Okay, because we don't want to go beyond 5. We just want to go below 5, right? And then quickly after that we said print count is and then comma I. And in the next line we said I equals to I plus 1. Now this I equals to I plus 1 here is just increasing the value of I by 1 every time, right? So in the first iteration, now let me just take you through iteration wise. Right now this is called as iteration. Iteration means that when a loop is finished doing its work for one time, right? If a loop is doing is done with its work for one time, that is called as one iteration. Okay, and in this program we're going to have 5 iterations. Now let me just quickly explain to you what we are doing here. We said I equals 0, okay, and then you said while I is less than 0. Now while I is less than 0 is a condition, right? And then you see what is this condition, is it a true or false? Okay, now you see the value of I is 0, so we are just saying 0 is less than 5. Yes, it's less than 5. So if this condition is true, it would go inside of our loop, and then we said print count is I. Now the value of I was 0 here, so 0 would be printed. And then we said I equals to I plus 1, which means that increase the value of I by 1, right? So just after this condition, the value of I would become 1. We came back here to the while loop again because there isn't any other statement after I equals to I plus 1, right? So we just came back to the control of Python. We came back to while loop. It's saying while I is less than 5. Now you see the value of I was 1 now, and 1 is less than 5, which means that this condition is again true. So we will come inside the while loop. We'll just say print count is I. This I means 1 now. And then after this, just after that, we just increase the value of I by 1. So the value of I now becomes 2. We again came back here. We just say while 2 is less than 5. Now this is a true statement. 2 is actually less than 5, unless you have anything else in your mind, right? So you see 2 is less than 5, which is the true condition. Then we'll just say print count is 2. Okay, and then we increase the value of I by 1 again, which means that the value of I now becomes 3, right? And this process will keep on going until we get the value of I equals to 5 or greater than 5, by that matter. If I just try to print or run this program, let's see what happens. There you go. So it starts off with, there you go. You see it starts off with count is 0, count is 1, count is 2, 3, 4, and 5, up to so on. Right? Now this number can be changed. You can change it. You can just put anything else in it, right? Because if you want to print all 5 numbers, you can just say I is less than and then equals to 5. Simple as that. Let's try to run this one. Now what will happen? We would not skip number 5 from our loop, right? Because we are including it now. We are saying I is less than equals to 5. If you find anyone with the value of I as less than or equals to 5, just allow that to go into our loop. Let's start to run this one again. There you go. You see now we have a count is 5 as well. Okay, I hope you understood that.
Yes, it is.
Okay, very nice. So this was a simple example of a while loop. Now you can just give as many examples of while loop as you want to take, right? So we could have also just said here, see, now this thing is very popular in our while loop. We can just say quotation mark here, and then we can just say how about we just say name of any person. How about just say John? Okay, and then if you just want to print this name John by many times, right? How about if I say you just print the name John once in the first line and then keep on increasing that name, right? Keep on increasing that factor. Okay, so how about we just say John and then we say the multiplication multiplied by, and then we're going to say I, right? Now I in the first iteration will have the value of 0 and then 1 and then 2 and up to so on. The thing will just keep on increasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this means that our John would get printed 0 times in the first iteration, and then in the second iteration it would get printed once, then third and the fourth and the fifth up to so on. Let's start to run this one and see what happens. There you go. You see, so we kind of get a very nice kind of pattern here. You see, we have John for once in the first line. You see, there's an empty line here because I was 0 at first, right? In the first
Mm-hmm.
iteration, I was 0. So 0 multiplied by John is 0. So we don't know, so we don't get anything in the first line. And after that, we said John, and then John for 2 times, John for 3 times, John for 4 times, and John for 5 times. Okay. I hope this thing is very clear to you now.
Yes, it is.
And if you just, yeah, let's do some more interesting thing. If you just remove this line from here, if we just comment this one out, and then I try to run this program, let's see what happens. I will create, okay, are we actually printing something? Yeah, because as soon as this program finishes, only then it will print something. Now you see, we are not increasing the value of I by anything. Now this means that the value of I keeps on becoming 0. It is not increasing. Okay, so if it's not increasing, it is just continuously printing John, and it's just multiplying it with I, which is 0. Okay, if you just give I as 1 here, if you just change the I value of I by 1, now you will see some things happening. Let's start to rerun this program. There you go. So John is just keep on getting printed again because we are not increasing the value of I by anything. So you see, this terminating statement is also very important. You need to give the terminating statement so that the value of I keeps on increasing and it reaches the level at which we want it to reach. There you go. Very nice. See, that is the main difference between both of these. Okay, so I hope you understand that, because if you don't give I plus equals to 1, you are making an infinite loop. All right, now let's just quickly talk about something else now. So as we talked about if and else statement in our last session, you see, every if can have its else part. In the same way, every while loop can have its else part. Okay, so how about just quickly saying an else here? So we can say else, right? And inside this else, we can just say print. Now in here, we can just say out of loop now. You see, this is helping us to understand when our loop actually ended. Okay, let's start run this one. Now you will see this loop ended. You see, we are saying out of loop now. So as soon as this condition becomes false, as soon as it's not eligible to run the loop again, we'll just quickly come to our else part and say out of loop now. I hope you understood that as well. If you do, very nice. All right, so we have talked about our else part. Now, let's just quickly talk about a break and a continue statement in our while loop, because this one is very important and it's going to come in handy to you in each and every aspects of programming, right? You always need a break statement and you always need a continue statement, whether if it is a C++ or Python, okay? You always need, you always need your break and a continue statement, and there will be uh, a method for it in each and every kind of programming language, right? Now I'm gonna do some break statement problem through which you can understand how it actually works, and then I'll be explaining the whole code. Okay, now let me first explain you what a break statement is and what a continue statement is. Okay, so I'm gonna write it here. So let's say a break statement. Break statement. There you go. Let me first tell you what a break statement does. Okay, so a break statement in Python will terminate the loop and take the control to the very next statement after or outside of our loop, right? So let's just quickly write it here so that you can understand. So the break statement in Python will terminate the loop, totally terminate the whole loop, right? Let me write it here. So we are saying, yeah, there you go. So a break statement in Python will terminate the loop and take the control of the very next statement after or outside of our loop. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Now this is the purpose of our break statement. It just helps us to get out of the loop and just break the whole loop upside down, right? Now let me first comment this thing out as well, because we don't need this one now. And in the next line, I'm going to give you some example through which you can understand why and where the break statement is needed. All right, now for example, if you just want to get rid of uh, like any invader or something like that, or you are just trying to get rid of any particular number, for that matter. Okay, it depends upon your on your problem or your program. So for example, if I just say you just print first 6 numbers, and I say you as soon as you incurred or as soon as you counter 3 in it, don't print that. As soon as you counter 3, just break out of the loop. Okay, so how can we make that program? So let me tell you. So as always, we're gonna do the same method. We're gonna follow the same method. The first step in making a while loop, think for yourself for a while, and then come back to my statement. Okay, so the first step in making a while loop is initiating the loop variable, right? Just as we did, I equals to 1 or I equals 0. You can say whatever you want. So I'm just gonna say I equals to 1. How about that? Because that seems quite simple, right? So I'm just saying I equals to 1. All right. Okay, so we have I equals to 1. Now we need to start our while loop now. So I'm gonna say while. Now as we all know, we want our loop to run for 6 times, right? Because I just want to print first 6 numbers. So I will just say while I is less than, and then I would say while I is less than 6, right? Because I want to print 6 numbers. So I will say while I is less than 6. Okay, and then after that we'll just say print I, right? Because we just want to print each and every number. But as soon as that number becomes 3, we're gonna break out of our loop. So we're gonna say if I becomes equals to. Now this is very important. The difference between single equals to and a double equals to is great, right? In Python it's great. A single equals to is used for assignment operator, but a double equals to is used for comparison. Now we are doing comparison between I and 3. We are saying if the value of I becomes equals to 3, just go ahead and break out of the loop. Simple as that. Okay, now some of you may be thinking that the program is done, right? We have done each and everything. No, we haven't done each and everything. Third part of our while loop, that was called as the terminating or the increment statement. We need to add that as well. So I'm just simply going to say r plus equals to 1. Here we're going to say r plus equals to 1, just like that. Okay, because this part is very important. Let's quickly run this one to see how it looks like. You see, it prints 1, it prints 2, it prints 3. As soon as the value of I reaches 3, it's going to break the loop, and the loop is never going to return back. I hope it's very clear to you now.
Yep.
Good. And the counterpart of it is called as the continue statement. Okay, the continue statement. Now let me first tell you what a continue statement is, right? So on contrary to a break statement, right, the continue statement will help you to skip one value. Okay, it will just take the control back to the while loop. It won't print, or it won't allow the control of the loop to get any further. As soon as a continuous statement happens, what actually happens is the loop or the control of the loop will go back to the while loop and recheck this condition. It will recheck this condition if it's still true. If it is true, if it will go back to these statements again, right? And if this is false, it's gonna it's gonna stop our while loop, right? Okay, so now we're gonna use our continuous statement. Now let me first tell you what the definition of a continuous statement is and how does it work. As I told you before, continuous statement just helps us to skip a particular value, right? So we can say on the contrary to a break statement, yeah. So on contrary to a break statement, the continuous statement will stop the current let's just press enter from here so that we can see in the next line. Okay, so it will stop the current loop iteration and take the control back to the top of the loop to re-evaluate the expression, right?
All right.
The expression is this one. This I is less than 6, right? So I'm just gonna copy and paste this program, and then we're gonna make some changes in it. Okay, let's just copy this one and paste it here. And let's just comment this one out because we don't need it now. Okay, so some of you might be just thinking that, how about we just replace this break statement with a continue statement? How about we just do it? And then let's try to run this program. Let's see what happens. Now you see, as soon as 3 happens, the whole loop keeps on running and it isn't stopping anywhere. Okay, you see, we have said 1 2 3 1 2 3, and after that is just keep on printing value of 3 up to infinity. It's not going to stop now, right? Let me first comment this one out as well because we don't need this program now. All right, now let me first tell you how it actually happened and what is the changes needed to make it work for us. You see, we say I is less than 6, right? And the value of I was 1. In the first iteration, the value of I was 1. We printed 1. We said is 1 equals to 3? No, it's not. We just increase the value of I by 1. So the value of I becomes 2. We came back here. We said 2 is less than 6. Yes, it's less than 6. We printed 2. And then we said, and then we said, is 2 equals 3? No, it's not. Then we just increase the value of I by 1 again. Now the value of I becomes 3. So we said 3 is less than 6. Yes, it is. We just printed our 3, right? And then we said if 3 is equals 3. Now this statement becomes true, right? In the third iteration, this statement becomes true. The value of I is 3. We're comparing it with 3, right? So this condition becomes true and we're going to continue, right? Now what is the purpose of continue? Continue will don't get any further. It won't allow to all these lines to get run, right? It will just take our loop back to this statement. Wow. To check if this condition is still holds true. Yes, it holds true. It prints 3 again. It again check if the value is 3. Yes, it is 3. And then again continue. You're right. So this is why the whole loop is just gonna run again and again and again. As you can see, we are printing the value of 3 to up to infinity. It's gonna stop until we stop it from here. Right?
Right. Can you hear me?
So that the value of I would also not get printed. Let me try this one. There you go. Okay, so if we just try to scroll up, you see we have a 2 4 5 6. Okay, if you want a 1 as well, just change this 1 to 0. Let's try to run this one again. See what happens. Yeah, there you go. So we have a 1, we have a 2, we don't have a 3. We have a 4, 5, and 6, right? So this is the power of a continuous statement. It won't allow any other statements to run. Okay, and in the continuous statement, there's another thing that you need to take care of. That is called as the order of your statements. You see, if I just pick my print statement from here and put that somewhere else, the program is not going to work efficiently, right? So this is what we need to learn, right? So the order of each and every statement here matters a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think this will be up for the while loop. If you have any questions, you can ask me now or in the comment section below.